Hello, thank you for joining me. In this video we're going to be drawing a wheel. It's the next in our series in our week number 2 assignments that we're going to be doing. And as I mentioned, this is going to be the wheel. So to get started, let's pick the appropriate layer. Even though it may not be appropriate for a wheel, just to be consistent with this architectural CAD class, we're going to pick the A-walls layer, and we're going to do the circle command on the Home tab. And the way the circle works, and for some reason you have to press that twice, I don't know why, at least the first time you do. The way a circle works is you're going to define the midpoint of that circle, the center of that circle, and you're going to draw that out. Now, you may have reference geometry already there that you can use. Otherwise, in this situation, we're just initiating a drawing. We're just going to click it and spread it out. So it's asking for a radius. On the drawing that we have that we're going off of, it's asking for a diameter. So there's a couple things you could do. The first thing you could do is actually type in half the diameter in order to put in that radius. And for this one, it's a pretty easy thing to do. It's a 2-foot diameter. We're going to type in 12 inches is just 1 foot in order to get that into place. Now, that's not really close to our origin anymore, so let's go ahead and move that to our origin. Perhaps right there. The desire here is to try to get that into our A-size layout. So if you go over here, and it's not very visible, but let's go ahead and make that visible. Now let's try to do some scaling here too. So when our display, if you go up to our properties palette and go to the display locked, we want to make sure that it's not locked. Double click inside of that, do a zoom extents, and get our circle in there. That's pretty close. So click out of model space, go back into paper space, and let's adjust our scale. I believe that if you think about it, it's a 2-foot diameter circle, about 24 inches. We're trying to squeeze that into maybe a 6-inch window in a way. Width, we probably went a little bit smaller than that, so probably about a 1 to 4 scale would be good. And if we stick with the architectural dimensioning or scaling factors, that would be 3 inches equal to 1 foot. And that's really going to be kind of big. By the time we get dimensions in there, we probably want to have something that's smaller than that. So let's go to something that's smaller. Let's go to the next size smaller, which is going to be 1/2 of an inch is equal to 1 foot. And I think that'll work pretty well for this. So display locked. I'm going to go back and do that and go to yes. And let's go back to model space and finish our model in. So now we have one circle. We need to have 3 other concentric circles that go with that. So we're going to follow the same format we did before. And if you want to get the center point of that first circle in order to make the subsequent circles concentric, what you do is you take your cursor and just rest it over the first circle, and it brings up the center point of that circle. And we're going to stretch it out from there. So this one is 1 foot 5 inches. 1 foot 5 inches is a little bit hard to try to divide into 2. Another way around that, instead of putting into the radius, you can put in the diameter. The way you do that is you type in D and then enter. Now it's asking for the diameter. And the diameter is going to be 1 single quote or 12 inches if you want to enter it that way. Oop. Which really wasn't, it was 1 foot 5 inches. So let's try that again. Take your cursor, touch the side of that circle, type it out or pull it out. D, enter, 1 foot 5 double quote, boom. That's a little bit better. Next one, spacebar, repeats the same command, the previous command. Pull that out, D, enter. This one is 10 inches. And our final circle, D, enter, 6.75. Let's do one more circle because this one is going to be for the inscribed pentagon that we're going to draw here. In this one, if we do the same thing, follow the same format, type in D, and this one is going to be 4 1/4, so 4.25. Enter. That's going to be where our pentagon is going to be, which is going to be our next step. So if you go up here to our Home tab, typically what you have is a rectangle that's chosen up here, unless you choose something else. We're going to choose the polygon, and it goes through a series of steps as you go through this command. If you click on polygon, the first thing it asks for is how many sides? 5. Defaults to 4. We're going to type in 5. Specify the center of the polygon. Again, if we click in any of these circles, we can identify the center of any of those circles. They're all concentric. So we're going to pull that out and click that center. And then it asks if it's going to be an inscribed or circumscribed. And it is going to be inscribed. So we're going to maintain the default setting there and just press enter or spacebar. And then we're going to stretch this out. Try to pick up like that horizontal line, which is your polar tracking. and is asking for the radius of it. So we're going to have to do a little bit of math. We can't just type in D here. But we can do one of two things. We can use the geometry that's already there, that's already available for us, which is probably a pretty good idea. Or we could type in the radius, which is going to be half of 4 1/4, which is going to be 2 1/8. Because I've already drawn that circle in there that defines the inscribed polygon, I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I chose the quadrant at the top of that circle, and it just dropped into place. A couple more items we're going to draw in. We're going to draw in that circle. That denotes where the wheel studs are going to go. So what we did is we drew in some reference geometry, and while we're doing that, let's go ahead and draw in the reference geometry for everything else. And what I'm doing with the reference geometry is picking on the quadrant of those circles, which is one of your object snaps. And this one looks like a green diamond rather than a green square, or a green triangle, which denote the end point or the midpoint of a line, or a circle, which denotes the center of a circle. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle. At the midpoint of that line, and it's going to be a 2-inch diameter circle, so I'm going to type in D, enter, and then 2 enter, and that puts in that circle. I'm going to erase that reference geometry, and take that circle and copy it around. There's other ways you could do this, including the mirror command or the ray command, but this seems to be fairly straightforward and fairly fast too. So I'm going to go to the copy command, pick the base point of my of the object I'm going to be copying, and then I'm going to copy to the midpoint of that line, to the midpoint of that line, and midpoint of this line. Once you do that, let's get rid of our reference geometry. Bing. And that should be pretty well set. Now we need to do our dimensioning. So remember our scale that we had in here is 1.5 inches equal to a foot. If you go to the website and go to the grade sheet, that little applet I have in there for scaling, if you go in there, you'll notice that the scale factor is 8. There's 8 1.5 inch units in a foot. This is what you think about that. So let's go to our annotate tab, go to our annotate or our dimension style modify, and change our fit option to 8. And go to OK. Go to close, pick our appropriate layer, go to the home tab. Instead of a walls, we're going to go to dimension, and instead of a linear dimension, we're going to choose the diameter dimension. If you go to that pull down menu, you can get the diameter dimension out of that. And we're just going to start dimensioning. So large circle first, spacebar, next circle, spacebar, third circle, spacebar, inner circle, spacebar, and then for the polygon, we're going to click on that. You don't have to enter text, but if you do want to enter text, this is how you do it. If you click on that dimension and you scroll down, if you go to text override down here, about halfway down, what you need to do is put in the less than or greater than brackets, greater than brackets. What that does is it maintains the dimension that's in there rather than replace it. Go to spacebar, and then we're going to type in inscribed. I'm going to make sure it's all capitalized. And it's pentagon. And then if you just click out here, it automatically puts it in there. Once we do that, we're going to erase this reference geometry because we don't need it anymore. Scroll out, we're going to put one final diameter dimension on the circle. Any of these circles will be good. This one's probably okay. If you want to enter text in that one too, you can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this one's going to say typical of 4. So remember the greater than and less than brackets. And this one's going to say typical of 4. Okay, that's all done. Let's see how it looks in our A-size layout. Need a little bit more room with our viewport. And let's take that and move that around so it's a little bit more centered. And that looks good. And don't forget to update your title block, and that would be the last thing you do. And then go through the print management of this and get this thing printed out, and you should be all done. So thank you for joining me. There are more videos to come.